Republic.
Very public.
Uh,
Zoo. Yeah, favorite location. Hey guys, let me use my German language skills. I bet you didn't know I could speak German language. Can you tell me how to introduce this channel in German language?
yeah, sure. So that would be something like Willkommen zu Ihr favorite.
Willkommen zu yeah. Favorite location. Willkommen zu yeah. Favorite location.
Close enough.
Okay. Continue. That was good. So guys, as I've just said, so welcome to your favorite location. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I have a special guest with me here today, and his name is Tony. He's a Czech citizen, but then he has lived in Luxembourg. And of course, you know me already. I'm a Nigerian who lives in Czech Republic, obviously a foreigner. And today we're going to share some things we know about these two countries with you. So apparently, these two countries are small countries in Europe, but then Czech Republic is still bigger than Luxembourg.
Well, yeah, Luxembourg is much smaller than the Czech Republic, but it's actually way larger than most people think. I would say it's about as big as the South Moravian region right here. A lot of people think of Luxembourg as a city-state because the capital city is called Luxembourg, so it makes sense to a lot of people, but that's not the truth.
Okay.
You maybe need like an hour by car to drive from the southmost point to the northmost point. Yeah.
Czech Republic has about 27 cities. So how many cities do they have in Luxembourg?
Well, I would say about two.
Just two.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy, right?
Okay.
So they have the main city, which is called promptly Luxembourg.
Okay.
And it has about 137,000 people living in it. And then you have Esch an der Alzette. That's a town I lived in, and it has about 37,000 people living there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's like a bunch of villages, but there's a good amount of them.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because I think for Czech Republic, I think Prague and Brno are like the most diverse cities. Because I remember when I just came to Olomouc, like a lot of people would always stare at me, and initially I wasn't like comfortable with it. I was like, why are they always staring at me? But then I realized it wasn't really so diverse per se.
If you were to talk about diversity, yeah, basically the whole of Luxembourg, the university itself, they're mostly foreign students. I think whenever I looked at the statistics, it was about 50%, which is quite crazy.
Whoa.
It's because a lot of people move into Luxembourg because of money. And a lot of Luxembourgish people actually study outside of Luxembourg.
Oh, interesting. So what's the name of the university?
Well, it's very creatively named the University of Luxembourg, if you would believe that.
Okay.
It's also the only university in Luxembourg.
The only university in the country?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
It's at least the only university in Luxembourg open to public. I'm not sure if they have like private universities.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure, but you usually just see this one, right?
Okay.
Like an interesting thing is that basically the university, it more or less has like two buildings. Or like main buildings.
Buildings. Okay.
Yeah,
two main buildings. Okay.
Yeah. So it basically has like a building for the teachers' offices.
Okay.
And then it has like a building for all of the faculties.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so small.
I'm older than the university.
Okay. So, how old is the university?
I think it was grounded in the year 2004 or something.
So it's like 20 years, not even up to 21 years.
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty young.
Yeah.
So I've heard about Luxembourg being an expensive country. How expensive is it? How true is it?
Well, it really depends on what you're spending your money on.
Okay.
So I would say the most expensive parts definitely are the housing.
Oh, okay.
And also services in general, like going to restaurants, usually like a nice middle class restaurant. It costs about 25 euros for the main course without drinks or anything.
Okay, so if you're to spend 25 euro for like one meal in one day, So like the whole day, if you had to eat morning, afternoon, and night, that would be like 75 euros per day, right? If you had to eat out.
Yeah, if you were to eat out.
If you had to eat out, so you'd be spending like 75 euros. Okay, I think it's a bit expensive because in Czech Republic, I think with 30 euros you could eat out like in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the night. I think in an average restaurant, like 30 euros should be enough for like a full day meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Czech Republic has a very reliable transport system. I think if you're in Prague, you need to pay about 5 euros for like a 24 hours transport ticket. But if you don't pay this money and you get caught, you have to pay a fine of approximately 60 euros. That's a lot. You don't want to get fined. So you either pay your 5 euros peacefully. So what's the transport in Luxembourg like?
So first off, the really interesting part is that public transportation is actually completely free for everybody.
It's free to like get into the trams, into the pub.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you are.
Wow.
It's for everybody in general, even though you do not have like a citizenship or anything.
Wow.
It's always free.
But then when it comes to like the usual transport system in Czech Republic, like maybe taking the bus, the trams, like within a particular city, I think they're very reliable. Like you don't have to wait for so long.
Purely time-wise, it's better.
Yeah, it is.
Because the Luxembourgish one, as I said, they have like a very special tactic of having so many buses and all of them are like late.
But at least it's free.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. So guys, go to Luxembourg. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free to get into any of the bus or tram. So the Czech language is like really different from English language, and it's also very different from my native language, which is Yoruba language. So it's like way different. And I think if you're in Czech Republic, like if you're trying to get a job and you cannot speak Czech language, I think the best city to be is probably Prague or Brno, because those are like very diverse cities and there are a lot of international companies in those cities. So you are likely to get a good job there. But aside from these two, any other city, if you want to work, you probably need to understand Czech language or any other European language. So what's it like in Luxembourg? What's the official language?
So in fact, they have 3 official languages. So they have special language, Luxembourgish.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite close to German actually.
Oh.
Like after maybe 3 weeks, I was able to understand it quite well. They also have French and they also have German itself.
Oh, okay.
Most of the Luxembourgish people who are born Luxembourgish, they usually do speak Luxembourgish, and then usually the second preferred language is German. Because they're so close, so it's not very difficult for them to learn, right? But the dominant language there by far overall is French.
Do you speak French?
I do not.
Okay.
I just know some phrases and I can
Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know in French.
For example, I always have to say car.
What does that mean?
So like by card, right?
Okay. But you know the usual greetings like ça va, comment ça va?
Yeah, of course.
I think I know a little bit of French. Je m'appelle Bisola.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even I was so surprised at the university. Basically, there was like an information stall, and the man there, he spoke only French.
Wow.
And it was like the official information stall of the university.
No way.
So that was no German, no English, no Luxembourg. He just spoke French.
That must be difficult for international students.
Yeah, it was very difficult for me.
No way, I wouldn't survive. So is it really necessary to understand French language to get a job in Luxembourg?
Well, from what I have personally heard, yeah. I heard from the younger Luxembourgish people that they sometimes feel forced to learn French.
Oh.
Basically, they do have it at elementary school, right?
Okay.
But then some of them just decide not to do French anymore, and they do feel forced to like work in French whenever getting a job or whatever, and they need to have like C1 or B2 at least.
Oh, so it's like most jobs would require French language.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's even more dominant than the Luxembourgish language.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people, from what I have heard, are complaining about it, which does make sense.
I can imagine. Wow. So as you've just heard, guys, so if you're thinking of relocating to Luxembourg, or you probably want to do something in Luxembourg, then you probably need to learn French because it's like the major language. So most education in Czech Republic, if you actually want to study in foreign language, you have to pay tuition fee. But if you choose to study in Czech language, most times it's always free education. So if you want to come to Czech Republic, you could choose to study in Czech language and get free education, or study in English and pay your tuition fee. So what's it like in Luxembourg?
So basically, normally you do have to pay a tuition fee. It does not really depend what language you speak, but I personally had it for free.
Yeah.
Because I was in Luxembourg as a part of my mobility program, which was Erasmus. But normally people usually pay about 400 euros per semester or year. I'm not really sure.
When it comes to social life in Czech Republic, I get to enjoy my social life in Prague, basically, like, because Prague would always give me the African, the Nigerian kind of vibe, because there's like quite a number of Africans in Prague, and you know, if I want to have the real African kind of social life, then I go to Prague. It's always fun. It makes me feel like I'm in Lagos. I feel like I'm in Nigeria. What's the social life like in Luxembourg? How did you experience it?
So first off, I need to mention that I do not drink.
Oh, you do not drink, really?
At all, yeah.
Oh, why? What's the reason?
I just do not like it.
Okay.
I find it
So
disgusting.
you're not a real Czech, because
No, I'm
Czech would always get the beer.
There was a lot of like events organized by ESN, which stands for Erasmus Student Network, and there was a lot of pubs. So we went. There were events that were organized there.
Okay.
It was quite big. I enjoyed it personally, but a lot of people said it sucked.
Okay.
So I was quite surprised.
Okay.
And then in Luxembourg City, I was there only once, like during proper night, I would say, except for like Christmas markets.
Christmas market. Oh. What was it like? Was it nice?
Yeah, the Christmas markets, yeah, they were lovely.
Oh, okay.
But I've been there during New Year's Eve as well, and it was quite lively.
Okay. So what do you drink when you go to the pub?
I have like a tea.
Okay.
Yeah, please don't kill me.
Okay, this is a kind of special Czech citizen. It's like unusual for Czech people to not drink, because Czech is known for its beer. Like, I think beer is even cheaper than water in Czech Republic. I mean,
Beer Republic.
Beer Republic. I mean.
Yeah, that's often the case actually.
Yeah, beer is like really cheap, so almost everyone drinks beer in Czech Republic. Yeah. So you're like among maybe the 5% who doesn't drink.
Yeah, that might be true.
That's interesting. So guys, that's all from us today. And everything we've said are just based on our perspective. So if you think there's anything we've missed in this comparison, feel free to put it in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.